Hello and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily-ish update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool and Ethereum spaces. My name is Wack. Today is September 8th and today's episode is going to cover a whole lot of stuff because it's been a while since I made an episode. So it's going to cover the queue for Saturn 1. We're going to be talking about the rETH in DeFi. We're going to be talking about Lido automating their DAO. That's interesting stuff. On the Ethereum side, there's new Ethereum related Ask Me Anything AMA on Reddit from the ETH core devs. There's news about DATs and ETFs and a whole lot of other stuff. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Okay, so we are going to start here with this discussion that started last week, well, just over a week ago in the Rocket Pool Discord. And this is about closing the mini pool queue before Saturn 1. So right now we have a queue for validators who are waiting to get online. And that is, some hundreds of validators long. They're waiting for rETH to come into the deposit pool. And with that, new validators come online. Now, going forwards, we want people to come online as mega pools, not as mini pools, because that's where we can do the universal adjustable revenue split stuff and kind of tweak things depending on what the protocol needs. And as we do that, we can help Rocket Pool face the different challenges that it might face, whether that is needing to make rETH more attractive, needing to make new node operators coming along more attractive, or needing people to get involved in governance and stake more RPL to be more attractive. You can kind of tweak those different variables. So the idea here is that we would close the deposit pool, and by closing the sort of mini pool queue, and that would stop new validators from coming online until we basically turn it back on again for Saturn 1 on October 29th, which is the date that we are still aiming for right now. So this discussion kind of got involved because there's a whole process that needs to be done. We need to have an RPIP written. We need to discuss the RPIP on the forum. We need to talk about we need to vote on it and all that kind of stuff. So all this stuff takes time. So there was a lot of discussion by some of the key community members talking about whether we should do this, and if we should do this, when we should do this, and how it should all go, and what it's all going to look like. So this is quite a long discussion, but it looks like the community is kind of in support of doing this. It's just we want day one to be the best situation possible for the wider community, and that's kind of like what we're working towards. So there's some discussion here. It says Dr. says if anyone has feelings about the close the mini pool, answer below as an unofficial Discord poll on RPIP contents, and that's should we the questions are, should we close the mini pool before Saturn 1? Yes or no? If yes, when should it close? October 1st, 14 days before launch. And should the queue be allowed to reopen before Saturn 1? Yes, no, via Security Council, yes, other. And should wording be included if someone tries to launch mini pool that directly directs to buy rETH or info on megapools? No, yes, and then thoughts on this. So people started answering this. Dr. Doofus said yes, 14 days via Security Council, and yes. And then here's Guzzle as well, said yes, October 1st, if the deposit pool fills completely, and no, that's irrelevant. And then there was some other people asking for clarifications and things like that as well. So this is active discussion. You'll be seeing a lot more of this in the coming days as we go to our pips and as we start voting on this. So this is going to move quite quickly. So if you have strong opinions about this, if you have ideas that you want to share, please get involved in that discussion now. I know that this discussion has been going for over a week already, so that's my bad for not getting it to you guys earlier, but it's still not too late to kind of have your voice heard, but it looks like that's where we stand right now. So yeah, that's cool stuff. Okay, let's have a look at this update from stakerocketpool.eth, and they are showing that there is the bi-weekly rETH update, and showing you the different places where you can use your rETH. So if you have a look at some of the rates here, it seems like the best place on mainnet is to just put your, sorry, this is on L2s. The best rate you can get at the moment is about 3.57%. That's on Uniswap on Optimism. The other rates aren't looking so good, basically in the 1 to 2% range. Balancer on Base is at 2.34%. If you look on mainnet here, you can see that the rates are slightly better with Balancer here with the rETH, wrapped ETH, and Frax ETH pool. That's a tri pool. You can get 7.38%. You have to be careful on how the balances are, what the percentages are that you have to deposit into that. So keep an eye on that. But otherwise, it's that same kind of like 2%, 3% kind of range. Balancer again, rETH. ETH pool is 3.19%, and just holding your rETH is about 2.285% for the last 14 days. So that's not too great, but yeah, here. And then Regex Buster says, sorry for missing update, had unplanned medical issues, so I hope Regex Buster is doing okay. But yeah, that's kind of where we stand right now. So if you want to use your rETH, it looks like some of the options are a little bit limited right now, but hopefully the IMCs like kind of saving up some cash, and they will hopefully be using that in the period around Saturn 1 going live to try to get some more rETH minted. So definitely keep your eyes open for that one. Okay, we've got some tweets from the Rocket Pool Twitter account here, and they're actually saying something really cool here. So there's some discussion about the Rocket Pool DAO and what it's doing and how it's all working, and like this idea of who controls the DAO and what it's doing. And basically the Rocket Pool DAO is saying that, it's permissionless decision making. It's like handled by the community. And one of the really interesting point that the Twitter account makes here is that it says a custom quadratic token voting system prevents whales from controlling Rocket Pool. Requiring RPL to be staked in the node ensures the governance participants are aligned with the protocol's success. This means Rocket Pool can focus on building in a way that supports Ethereum. Now, this is actually really, really interesting because a couple of years ago when the team was working on the update before Saturn, Atlas, there was one of the key things that went in there was a new voting system, on-chain voting for Rocket Pool that was linked to the Security Council, all that kind of stuff. Now you might be thinking like, why did Rocket Pool do that? They could have just picked an on-chain voting system like, off the shelf. There's stuff like Tally that lets you do it. I think there's some other protocols as well that kind of let you do on-chain voting. You just pick it off the shelf, you pay for the service, and then you can vote on chain with that service. The thing is that Rocket Pool's voting system is completely novel in crypto, as far as I know, in that to vote with Rocket Pool, you have to have your RPL staked in the node and running validators pretty much. And the idea, of course, here is that by running your validators, you have skin in the game. And the other thing that they do is have this quadratic voting system, which is really interesting because it means that you get a square root of your vote as actual vote power. So some of the larger stakers in the protocol, if they have 1 million RPL staked, the vote share that they would get is 1,000 times 1,000. So they would get 1,000 votes basically based on that 1 million RPL staked. Now, if you are someone who has 1,000 RPL, then no, actually that's not a good that's not a good number. If you have 100 RPL, for example, staked, then the square root of that is 10. So you will get 10 votes. So even though you have 1,000th of the votes, you're getting 100th of the vote power, which is quite powerful when you think about it. So this is a unique system in crypto. It means that the whales have less power, which of course is really, really cool to see. But Rocket Pool is really thriving in this way. So I think Rocket Pool's governance system is really unique, and with Saturn 1 and especially Saturn 2, the vote share, it'll be people who stake their RPL on the protocol, with their nodes. They will get a percentage of ETH rewards that come into the protocol. So it's going to be doubly beneficial for those people. So that's really, really awesome. Okay, we have a pDAO treasury report, and this is from Vaca, and this was updated for for August, and it says that if you need an intro on how it works, like, there's a post there, and it says the pDAO received 5,553 RPL from inflation. It now has 108,000 RPL, which of course is a nice amount of RPL. And it says that IMC claimed their share of 11,000 RPL, and the GMC claimed their share of 5,500 RPL as well. So the IMC has that's the amount that they got from the pDAO. So that's actually really nice. Of course, this is the kind of thing that happens every month with the inflation, and the money goes out to the different management committees who need it. Okay, next we have this update from Hululo, and this was from Rewards Night at the end of August, and it was actually a new all-time low on the RPL ratio for ETH on going into Rewards Night, and this was at 0.00161, which is really low. And Hululo actually shared this really depressing stat here that wait, actually this is the right one. So it says from December 2023 up to now, this is what Rewards Night ratios look like, and it basically started at 0.01211, and then actually went up to 0.01335, and then since then it's mostly been like down, and it's really upsetting reading to know that that's been the case for pretty much 2 years. Is every rewards period it looks like with a few instances of going up slightly, the trajectory has been very strongly down, and each time we think that we've hit a new low, that's not been the case, and the price just has been bleeding lower. It's been really tough really tough for RPL holders, and it's not been fun. So that was upsetting. And then here we have hit new lows on the ratio as well. So this was from a couple of weeks ago. It was 0.00158, and since then we actually hit new lows just today. And if we have a look at that, the new low is 0.0042 429722. So that's the current low ratio, and that was updated on the 8th, which was earlier today, but I think I saw it at 00141. Let me check. It's actually shot up a little bit today because RPL increased against ETH, but it's been a tough period, and it's not been fun. So sorry about that, guys. Okay, moving on to some staking news now. We've got some interesting developments here, and this is the Lido DAO is looking to automate parts of its DAO service. So MetalX here is a law firm that is providing a product for DAOs, and they are powering the world's first cybernetic DAO with Lido Finance's Borg. And here they said that they have one of the biggest DAOs. They've got billions in dollars in TVL, thousands of stakers, but no big DAOs face problems. There's no legal protection. Of course, there's the Samuels versus Lido DAO case that is quite it's ongoing at the moment, which is tough. So here they've got the Borg system, so it's legally recognized DAO entity, protected liability and treasury ownership, DAO controlled governance via smart contracts, and fully synced on-chain voting and off-chain compliance. So this is a cool little system that they have. It looks like more and more DAOs are going to be adopting some kind of system like this going forwards. Dr. Doofus, who was involved in some of the discussions about what kind of structure the Rocket Pool DAO should take, he says that we've looked into Borgs. Maybe someday we'll be ready for such things. They're a little overkill and mismatched for our purposes, though. Step 1, you need to have money in the treasury. Step 2, you need to have community will. And then the ratio just goes down. So Dr. Doofus is making a little bit of a joke there as well, but just talking about how it's not really applicable to the Rocket Pool DAO right now. Okay, we have a new episode of Staking Nerd Talk. This is episode 3, and this is hosted by Remy and Yorick. And in this episode, they talk about Fosaka, Rocket Pool, Lido updates, and then minimum hardware. It seems like that was the topic that got most attention. So they're saying that if they're new stakers who are coming online now, they recommend that they have 4 terabyte of storage and also 64 gigabytes of RAM. The previous recommendation was 32 gigabytes of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage. Of course, now with partial history expiry, it means that 2 terabytes should be fine in perpetuity. But if you want to be more future-proof, for the next few years, then looking at having 4 terabyte hard drive and 64 gig RAM seems to be the recommendation coming from those guys. So what's really interesting is that, I spent around between $800 and $1,000 on my staking machine. I went a little bit overkill with my processor at the time, but that's been working fine for me since the beginning of 2022. So it's coming up to 4 years now that I've been a node operator. Is that right? 4 years already? Wow. Yeah, I think so. I started on January 1st, 2022. So it's been 22, 23, 24, and nearly 25. Yes, so nearly up to 4 years. So that's treated me fine, in that time. And the idea is that basically your staking machine that you get should be okay for 3 or 4 years if you get that spec, or maybe 5 years. And it looks like that's kind of the way that things are setting up right now. Spending $1,000 every 5 years is fine. However, if you are the kind of person who only has 1 or 2 validators on something like Lido CSM right now, or even going forwards, on Saturn 1 for ETH validators, the amount of rewards that you're going to get are going to be so small that you have to really balance the hardware costs versus the cost of your staking rewards versus hardware costs. So that's something to keep in mind. But this is overall really cool that upgrading the minimum hardware spec just to be more future proof. And I think it's totally fair to ask people to spend between $600 and $1,000 every 5 years or so. I think that is totally reasonable to do. And it's going to be interesting to see how people kind of respond to this. But they did clarify that if you are already staking, then your setup right now, if it's 2 terabyte hard drive and 32 gig RAM, that should be fine going forwards. So yeah, hopefully mine will be fine going forwards for a while longer yet. Okay, so one of the things that we got recently on Ethereum news is this AMA from Ethereum core researchers and core devs, and this was on Reddit. That it takes place, every quarter or so, or every few months. There were questions here about changing the issuance curve for staking. There were questions about block building and how that all has come together, and how that's going to work going forwards. There was talk about different kinds of finality systems as well, and then the client diversity, how can we make it even better? And then there's questions about the org chart and how that kind of works and how it should be presented, and more information as well. So if you want to find out the information straight from the core dev's mouth, then that's the place to go. And look out for the next ones. You can ask your questions as well, and the answers are normally quite good. So definitely go check that out. Okay, Nixo here came out with some info about updated timeline, and how we should have 2 upgrades, one after another in the next year. So we've got information here of how it's all going to come together. Let me just get the high-res version. Just a second. So Nixo provided the information, and let's actually go to the dark one. Right. So we have the different hard forks have already happened, and what's coming up next. And then it looks like we are going to Fusaka, of course, next, and that is Q4 of 2025. So that, of course, will mean that we had 2 hard forks this year, with Denkun that took place on May, and then it looks like we're going to get a November or December hard fork for Fusaka, and then it looks like the devs want to do it was Denkun, no, Pectra, in May, and now Fusaka coming forward, before the end of this year. And then it looks like Amsterdam should be in the first half of next year as well. So it definitely looks like, the core devs are trying to get onto the 6-month cadence of hard forks every 6 months. I think that's really, really exciting. But keep an eye on this. Like, if you want to find out what the timeline looks like, it gives you information of the past hard forks that have already happened, and gives you all the info of what came before the merge, since Ethereum launched, and everything. So people really like this graphic. I really like this graphic. Great update from Nixo there. Okay, the Ethereum Foundation put out this really interesting thread about selling their ETH. So, there was this constant kind of thing about FUD, which was that, the Ethereum Foundation just exists to dump their ETH, and every time the price pumps a little bit, they dump their ETH a little bit more. And people were upset about that, which is kind of stupid, because of course that's how the Ethereum Foundation funds itself, and they've been really clear about it the whole time. Then what happened is last time they sold some, they actually ended up selling 10,000 ETH to SBET, and that made sense, right? They just call up Joe Lubin and say like, hey Joe, like, we hear you want to buy some ETH. We've got some ETH to sell. Why don't you buy it from us? So it was a really nice deal that they were able to do, like, party to party over the counter, which is really nice. However, it seems like some people didn't like that either. So now the Ethereum Foundation is adopting a new strategy they're calling it a transparency notice, that over months over the month of September, they're going to be selling 10,000 ETH via centralized exchanges, part of the ongoing work to fund research and development, grants and donations. This conversely will be taking place over multiple smaller orders rather than a single large transaction. So they've got an update on their policy and how that works, and you can click on that. But it actually makes a lot of sense that they want to be as transparent as possible. I like the idea of the Ethereum Foundation just selling it to digital asset companies like ETH treasury companies, but I guess if people are upset enough, then they have to do a different way. And them being really open about this, about doing as a TWAP, I think it makes a lot of like a time weighted average price sell. It just means that every day they sell 500 ETH or whatever, or even 100 ETH, like 200 ETH or whatever it is, over the course of a bit more than that, like 300 something ETH a day, over the course of a month, would get them their 10,000 ETH sold. And that amount is so small that the market wouldn't even really notice, compared to the amount of ETH that moves around the world every day. So that was some nice transparency, but I think they took the criticisms about selling it to a DAT a little bit too far, and they could have kept doing that, but that's okay. I kind of understand. Okay, we talked about ERC 8004 update. So this was a way to get agents kind of streaming payments on chain. And I'm sorry. This is the next story. This is about the Ethereum North Star, like a few months ago, became scaled L1, scale blobs, and improve the UX. So here Barnaby has an update on the improve the UX track, and he says that the focus is on interoperability, so building out and strengthening intent-based infrastructure, preparing the ground for fast and trust minimized backends, drive down costs and latency with a focus on faster and stronger settlement on L1s and L2s. So they're working on projects featuring a mix of coordinating additive initiatives, delivering new infrastructure and products, as well as accelerating deeper protocol changes with contributions from the Ethereum Foundation teams and the wider ecosystem. So they're happy about this. They are quite happy with this update. If you want to get the full information, go and read their protocol update number 3 from the Improve UX branch. This is really interesting. It's gotten some interesting feedback as well, because of the fact that using intent-based system. That's kind of the way CowSwap works now, where you say, hey, I want to do this thing, and someone else will kind of make it work on the back end, and then it'll just kind of happen. So for example, if you want to swap your USDC on mainnet and you want to buy ETH on Base, for example, you can just, go to CowSwap or a bunch of other places and just say, this is why I want to happen. Things like Jumper.exchange and other bridging partners will do this as well now, kind of have it built into their framework, where you can just press some buttons and it just kind of happens. It's really nice that it kind of abstracts away a lot of the backend stuff that you would have to do normally, like bridge across and then go swap it manually, all that kind of stuff. It tends to be a little bit more expensive, as far as I know, as far as I can tell, very minimally so. But for some people, like, they might want to save those pennies. But the intent-based system, that's kind of how it works. There's competing idea of improving the UX of interoperability across L1s and L2s using base rollups, and it feels like that would be the better option longer term, but base rollups still aren't here yet, and it might be a little while before we get base rollups to that level of functionality. But hey, like if as long as the experience for users is getting more and more seamless on the front end, you can kind of abstract away the complexity on the back end. That I guess is a win. So this is a nice little update from Barnaby here. Okay, let's talk about ERC 8004 now. So when we talked about this on Rocket Fuel, a few weeks ago, it was just introduced, and since then, Ethereum ecosystems really like stepped up and started work on this. So Marco says, the line we always repeat, what makes Ethereum different is the developer ecosystem. He says it's so real, it just hit me in the face. So he says that this ERC 8004 standard is just 10 days old, but already we have 3 independent implementations and 40 plus teams reaching out to build on this standard. And it says the top ETH magicians thread of the quarter with brilliant contributions. So Ethereum magic, good luck finding this anywhere else. So this is the kind of thing that like really stands Ethereum aside, right? Like just this huge army of developers who are hugely passionate about Ethereum and developing on Ethereum, and they just can't stop. And this is really, really great to see that, these people are working on these standards and trying to make Ethereum better. It's just fantastic. Okay, so Etherealize kind of came onto the scene like a few months ago, and then people kind of weren't sure what was going on with them, even though Vivek and Danny and Grant, members of the team have been around. They didn't really like know what they were doing. So it seems like Etherealize were kind of working on this next chapter of theirs. So they made an announcement a few days ago saying that Etherealize is the next chapter. We were born as a marketing and BD arm for Ethereum. Today, we're excited to announce that we're expanding our mission. So Etherealize is building for the next era of finance, where Wall Street merges with Ethereum. So they've got this tweet thread kind of talking about what Etherealize is, how they started in January. It says there was no entity focused on bringing Ethereum to Wall Street and financial institutions, and they have since then educated hundreds of financial institutions, and what they've put out reports, and that for them was just the beginning, and now they want to accelerate the institutional blitz, and they've actually raised $40 million of capital through Electric Capital and Paradigm, along with participation from individuals and community members across the Ethereum ecosystem. So what they've done is they've built a world-class team, and they want to build products and infrastructure to usher the next wave of institutional adoption. So they're doing infrastructure to tokenize several trillion-dollar asset classes on Ethereum, applications to upgrade Wall Street settlement with Ethereum and bring utility to tokenized assets, institutional-grade privacy environment for tokenized assets as well. So this is what Etherealize is working on now. They are building the products and infrastructure that will rewire Wall Street. So with Ethereum as its backbone, which is really exciting. And they're saying that all assets should live on Ethereum, and that's what we're going to try to do. And then there's a picture of the team there. Anthony Sassano here says, Etherealize is one of the best things to happen to the Ethereum ecosystem in quite a while. Killer team, killer mission, killer fundraise. Good luck. Sean Adams says, cheering you on. Ryan Berkerman says, congrats, next stop, global ubiquity and multi-trillion-dollar ETH. So this is really, really great stuff. Huge kudos for the Etherealize team. Like Sassel says, they're doing some really, really cool stuff. So cheering them on, definitely. Okay, in some sad news, Ethereum R1 that I covered on Rocket Fuel a few months ago was this idea for a new L2 that was going to be like fully Ethereum aligned and, stage 2 from day one. And they had this vision of kind of developing this new L2, and it looks like it kind of was dead on arrival. So they had a fundraising target of trying to raise 1,000 ETH, and they weren't going to hit that target. So they stopped their mission, basically. So it's a bit of a shame. I feel like we do need some independent, community-driven L2s and spaces out there, but it seems like they weren't able to raise the money. Now, Ruz here says, partly blames the R1 team, saying that you guys didn't make enough of an effort to get the word out and, promote yourselves and get people interested and excited about what you're doing. And they responded by saying not everything's happening on crypto Twitter, and that's fine. But, I think they could have maybe made a bit more of a song and dance of, why it was important to do what they were doing. But it seems like they didn't get traction, so they'll be sending back their ETH that was donated to them. Okay, xStocks launched on Solana a few months ago, and the talk of the time was that they wanted to launch on Ethereum, but Solana paid the money to launch on Solana. They got big grants or some kind of incentive payments to do that, so they launched on Solana first. Well, now they have launched on Ethereum as well. So they said, "Hello Ethereum, xStocks are coming to Ethereum mainnet, one of the world's largest and most reputable blockchains with over 500 billion in assets secured, millions of users and thousands of apps. The standard for tokenized equity is growing everywhere." So they're basically saying that they're now going to be multi-chain. So first on Solana and now on Ethereum. And they're going to be ERC20 tokens that will settle on Ethereum mainnet, and xStocks pioneered large-scale tokenized equities and crypto, and blah, blah, blah. So what's interesting about xStocks is, from what I've heard, I've not actually used the product, is that liquidity is quite thin, and they kind of struggle to keep the peg with the stock price, the underlying, the price of the underlying asset. So, please be aware of that before you use xStocks to trade. But it seems like they wanted to come to Ethereum from the beginning, and now they're on Ethereum, so I'm hugely supportive of that. Okay, let's talk about BMNR for a minute. And here it looks like they're getting options trading. This is Tom Lee's Bitmine Ethereum DAT or ETH strategy company, and they want to make it easier for people on trading to get options trading going for that, to go long or short. So that is that's interesting vehicle there for them. There's some other stuff that they've been putting out recently, kind of pro Ethereum stuff, and this was the chairman's message that came out a few days ago, where Tom Lee says that ETH is going to flip Bitcoin, and it's going to the ratio is going to go to 0.25, which is very nice. I think that's like kind of what he presents as an upper target, but flipping happens at around 0.16. So I'm really excited about that. Let's just say he, of course, is doing his part to make that happen, by buying all the ETH there is, all the ETH they can find, and putting out these incredibly bullish reports and statements. One of the things that was really interesting in this report that they put out was that they're looking to acquire other companies as one of their strategies for growing their ETH share. Now, for example, if BMNR kind of takes over, say, one of the, I don't want to mention the names, but like one of the companies that's like lower on the MNAV, it means that their assets that they're holding are more valuable than the share price of the company. They could purchase that company at share price, if they can, and then try to consume the ETH themselves, put it on their own balance sheets. They'd be buying ETH at a discount. So it looks like that's something that they want to consider as well. One thing that was really interesting that happened today was BMNR put out their latest reports of how much ETH they hold, and now they have hit over 2 million ETH, which is just an absolutely insane amount of ETH. And they also have $264 million in cash, which means they could buy basically $10 million worth of ETH every day for the next month pretty much, and still like just about run out of money. So that's a huge amount of money they have, and that amount of ETH holdings is just staggering. They wanted 5 million ETH, and they're already 40% of the way there within a couple of months. The rate of accumulation here is just astonishingly fast. So yeah, they're doing really, really well. Now, if we have a look at the strategic ETH reserve, you can see that the amount of tokens that the treasury companies are holding is huge. The amount of ETH that is now that we have on the strategic ETH reserve companies is 4.91 million ETH, which is $21 billion, and the ETFs have 6.54 million ETH, which is $28 billion. It looks like the private is about to take over the ETFs, but here Bitmine, they've got 2 million ETH, Sharplink Gaming 837,000, Ether Machine just under 500,000, Bit Digital haven't increased their amount in a while, 120,000. ETH Corporation are increasing their amount, they're at 102,000. BTCS still at 70,000, and then more after that, excuse me. One of the reasons why they're not adding that much is because of their MNAV. So the value, these are the companies where the value of their shares is less than the amount of ETH they hold, so they can't actually trade it on the market to do at the market issuance of shares to buy ETH. I think some of them have slowed down a little bit because of that, but Bitmine just seems like it's going gangbusters. In the last 30 days, they've increased their holdings by 148%. So yeah, this is truly astonishing amount of ETH that they've gained in that time. So Tom Lee's by far and away, the lead in this race so far. But let's see, what the coming months brings. But it's going to be hard to catch up. Okay, so about DATs here, there was a bit of FUD going around from Bitcoiners about DATs, and there were Jack Mallers here who has his own DAT, Bitcoin DAT, was kind of criticizing ETH DATs, and he says the biggest stablecoin creators don't see ETH treasury as a good idea, so why should anyone else? And basically just criticizing buying ETH. And there were some really good rebuttals here. Here from Adriano says ETH bears like Jack Mallers, who've been wrong since day one, are now claiming that ETH treasuries are a bad idea because they say ETH is not a store of value. He says given how consistently wrong their past predictions about Ethereum have been, it's worth asking why anyone would trust them now. And he says here the reality, Ethereum has 100% uptime, smart contracts would never work on Bitcoin, and there's no real use case of meaningful adoption. That's the criticism about Ethereum. And of course, we have all of that in Ethereum. The secures $1 trillion across ETH, stablecoins, tokenized RWAs, native tokens, bridge tokens, and NFTs. The institutions have been building. Ethereum has been scaling. The Beacon chain launched. So these were all different criticisms across time of ETH and Ethereum and how they've all proven wrong time and time again. And now the current ones will be proven wrong as well. Just breaks down all these different ways that which Bitcoiners and others thought Ethereum would die, and none of them have worked so far. So yeah, this was a really nice post by Adriano here, kind of shooting down the Bitcoin narrative there. And then the just like the tightening environment of DATs. So one of the things that's happened this year, Bitcoin DAT MicroStrategies has actually suffered because of some of the rule changes that's happening at the NASDAQ about how they can issue shares. So even though Bitcoiners are like to criticize the Ethereum DATs, it looks like they kind of need to worry about their own DATs first. Okay, and it's not just DATs where Ethereum is thriving. The ETFs have been really, really strong. On many, many days, the Ethereum ETF inflows have been stronger than the BTC ones. However, that has been going down a little bit with the price kind of being flat for the last couple of weeks. But here you can see on the far side, hundreds of millions of dollars a day coming in at some points more than Bitcoin. Nate here talking about the top 10 days of inflows for Ethereum, over $450 million. And now in August alone, there was over $3.7 billion. There was a nice little stat here at the end of August saying that the Ethereum's iShares was number 2 out of all 4,400 ETF inflows over the past week. It was only behind the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. So these are the biggest of the big ETFs. And the Ethereum, in that week, the last week of August, was going better than almost all of them. So it just shows you how strong the ETH ETFs were at that time. Here, Matt Hogan as well, kind of showing data for the whole of the month of August. BTC had $800 million outflows. ETH had $4 billion inflows. This is just astonishing amount of ETH that was coming into the ETFs. And then let's just go back for a second and we can see where we stand with far side. So like I said, over the last week, some of these numbers have kind of trailed a little bit. We've had outflows on the 28th, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Some of those outflow days were quite big, like 400 million plus. But I think today is going to be a nice inflow day because ETH prices performed well today. BTC flows in that time have increased a little bit, so this catching kind of catching a bit again. But for that period in August, especially leading up to the end of August, the ETH ETFs were strongly outperforming the BTC ones, and that you could see in the ratio price update there as well. So there was a lot going on there, definitely. And then James Seyfarth here just shows that there's a lot of ETF filings that are coming through, but there's 92 items in the spreadsheet, so they're going to come through for all these different assets. So you've got You got to squint to see, like you said. So here I can see things like ETH BTC, Basket ones, Litecoin, Solana ones, Doge, XRP, Cardano, HBAR, like a whole bunch of different products. So it looks like it's crypto ETF season is going wild here. You're going to be seeing a whole lot of those coming online, I think, in the next few weeks and months. Okay, and this is with all of that, stage set. It looks like, Wall Street are really paying attention to Ethereum right now. And here the VanEck CEO, Jan VanEck, who has historically been kind of critical of Ethereum, is now saying that ETH is the Wall Street token. It looks like, all of Wall Street wants to build on Ethereum, they wants to work with Ethereum. In tomorrow's episode, I'm going to talk about some of the things that have happened since this post was made with Tempo and Arc and a couple of other things, and how that's kind of changing the narrative a little bit, maybe, but not too much, I don't think. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. But yeah, it was very much the case that Ethereum is Wall Street's darling. But there's a little bit of more complexity to that, and we'll talk about that in tomorrow's episode. But here, DC Investment as well. So DC Investor says investment advisors now dramatically topping hedge fund managers by over 2x in their ETH ETF holdings. It's still relatively small, but if this is the start of a trend shift towards a percentage allocation of their clients' portfolios to ETH, this number can rapidly increase. So it just shows you here about investment advisors, how much they hold of ETH, and they hold like 540,000. Hedge fund managers 275,000. Brokerages 100,000, and then the others are tens of thousands and lower than that. So this is amazing to see just how much ETH has grown in those investment advisor portfolios. That number is going to get really big really fast. Okay, let's talk about some other crypto news. And here there's a report from today about NASDAQ filing with the SEC to allow tokenization and blockchain listings of stocks. So it looks like they are going to have their own blockchain, DTSS, I think, something DTCC maybe. But that's going to be EVM based, and I think the idea is that eventually this is going to settle to Ethereum. Of course, we're not sure when that's going to happen, but it looks like this is getting closer to being reality every day now. And then here Zuma says tokenized securities be traded on the same order book with shared execution as traditional securities on the NASDAQ if the conditions are met. So it just shows that settling on the blockchain is going to be given equal weight to settling in the traditional areas. And if you want to read the article about it here, Reuters writing about it. So they want to make a launch trading of tokenized securities. So it says NASDAQ proposes trading tokens tied to stocks and ETPs. If approved, move would mark first instance of tokenized securities on US exchanges, and NASDAQ files proposal days after SEC agenda adds crypto trading rules. So one of the things that happened as well is that these exchanges got permission to start offering crypto on their exchanges. So yeah, it's really amazing stuff. Okay, then I'm going to end today's episode with the Raffle. So these are the people who submitted stories to submissions in August. So we had Samus with 13 tickets, Sneaky Ninja Guy with 7, Blue AVM with 6, Shifrin with 3, Jasper with 3, Hippocrates with 3, Regex Buster with 2, Patches, ETHmeister, Genum, Neverland Island, Vaka, and Dr. Doofus. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 people. So there'll be $500 of prizes. Each person will get $50. There'll be 9 prizes, with the 10th prize going to Halulu for gathering the tickets. So let's see who wins prizes. So Sneaky Ninja Guy, Samus, Blue AVM, Vaka, Regex Buster, Dr. Doofus, Shifrin, Genum, Hippocrates. Yeah, so those are the 9 people who will win prizes, and then the 10th one will be Halulu. So on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. So thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I'm sorry that I've been away for a while, but I'm back now, and you'll see me again tomorrow and every day. And yeah, things are good. But yeah, I'll see you all soon. Bye.